Name is Matthaios. I'm 44 years old.
Hey, Matthaios. Thank you for having me here. I just want to start with a question like, how are you feeling just right now, right here?
Right now, right here, I feel today is a good day, and so I, I deal with chronic illness, and there's good days and there's bad days, and today's, uh, you know, one of the better days for sure. A lot better.
Where are we here?
Where are we? We're in the village of Corrales, New Mexico. Yeah.
How long have you been here?
I've been here now for since about late January of 2019. So, yeah, in this spot. But I've been in New Mexico since January or December 31st, 2017. Yeah.
Are you ready for this next question?
I think so.
Who are you, Matthaios?
Who am I? Wow, these deep questions. Who am I? I mean, so you might. Can you pause that or no? I mean, like, no, I have to just say, okay. Who am I? Well, I am. Gosh, I didn't think that would be that hard to answer. But
It's a maybe a two. It's maybe would you like to tell me what is your story, and we gonna go.
yeah, well, I'll try to. It's hard to be brief, but a lot of who I am now. I guess maybe it's easier to talk about it in terms of what people perceive me as, and that is somebody who, when I mention chronic illness, it's become a defining factor of who I am, and not because of myself, but because of extrinsic factors that I can't control. So, from even during this 15 years, this is my 15th year. This will be that I've gotten sick and ill. I was a very dynamic person. I am a dynamic person. I'm just subdued by my dynamic ability is subdued by physical and cognitive disability. So I am officially a disabled person, and I identify as disabled. I used to not, but now I very much do, and that doesn't mean, it still means I'm a dynamic person. It just means a lot of those abilities, a lot of the things that I'd love to do and used to define me more are things I can't do. And I'm in the process, of always trying to develop new things, new abilities. So that could be playing in a samba band, which I started when I was just about 40 years old. Or it could be, now we're doing more, being a voice actor now. And but I'm a lot, my life has come to be a lot more simplified because of having limits based on illness. And that puts limits on everything almost. And I'm not one of these people, I'll just say, is that says, oh, you can do anything still. No, I don't believe, it's not, I'm an optimist, but it's just, I believe in realistic and pragmatism, and not living in a fantasy world. And in a non-fantasy world, disability it's a hindrance. I'd rather not have it. Yeah, a lot of people say they're grateful for their disabilities. I would give it up in a heartbeat. So it has taught me things. It doesn't mean it hasn't taught me stuff. I'd rather have learned those things a different way. So I think I don't know if that answers who I am or not. It might, but it tells you a little bit about me.
What is your world today?
What is my world today?
You mentioned your world.
My world is a lot smaller. I mean, I hate to talk about past, but the saying is, I used to view the world as somewhere where I could, just like today, we can be across in Indonesia tomorrow, and I'd be surfing in Bali or something. But now I can't make those trips. I have trouble making small flights, and I don't have the means either financially. So my world is a lot smaller, but it's still big in the sense of I live in a beautiful area right now, although I'm kind of in the margins of society now. I don't have enough money for paying rent or doing anything like that. But I look around, and the same things that I used to say were the best in life were the things when I had good financial means. They're free. Going to the beach. You can go to the same beach that the person that owns the $10 million house in Malibu can go to. You can go to the Rio Grande over here that the people who own $1 million properties here go to. And I look at the Sandia Mountains here. I'm lucky that somebody else has these great dogs and animals here that I get to borrow. And I'm surrounded by, beautiful environment here. So that's still, my world is expansive in relative terms, but compared to what I used to live, this would be tragic seeming for me. Now it would be wonderful to travel the world again or outside of a small village, but I also look at that as not necessary to have a good life. So my health is my world. It's today. That's why you asked me. When I feel good, it feels like the life is so simple. You just need to be out of pain, less pain, have your cognition. Apologies, we got the nature sounds all around, the farm sounds. So yeah, that's my world now. Is here.
How bad is your health?
How bad? It's pretty bad, and it's hard to even, if you caught me a couple days ago, and when I'm in my worst, I'm slurring my speech. My voice is very different. My ability to sit upright, I'm slumped. There's so much pain cellularly with fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue syndrome, which are I'll give you two of main diagnoses I have, let alone the others, which I have autoimmune conditions. I have a number of arthritic conditions and injuries from sports, 3 hernias that are unrepaired. I battered my body even before I got ill, so those things are really painful in those days. And I have kidney complications and heart complications and bone complications, but so honestly, I didn't think I would make 40 years old. I'm 44. I didn't think I was going to make it through this summer. And some people will think that's hyperbolic speech and it's exaggeration. It's not. It's actually, I've had near deaths. And but I won't say hide it, but it's hard for people to see how ill I am because I'm not in a wheelchair. I'm not, missing limbs or having, it's actually the 13th, tomorrow is the beginning of Invisible Disabilities Recognition Week. And it's a big thing. And the reason it's the whole organization, because there's a lot of people with chronic illness that are less visible on the surface. So fibromyalgia, that's mental illness for people too. So for me, my health has been really, really degrading and scary, but and without treatment, to be honest, I probably will not be around a whole lot longer. People don't realize that people like me are in that community that you probably don't even hear when they say the news of those in the flu season that are compromised that die. I've almost died of the flu once very severely in Mexico and then once in the US. So I get my flu shot. I hope people get it so that they can protect me. I don't want to get into vaccine politics, but what I'm saying is that it's very, very tenuous at times what can take us out, and people don't recognize that because maybe they see an exterior or they see somebody who's positive or they're expressing a good day, so they're smiling and they're enthusiastic, but that doesn't take away from our fragility and vulnerability. So,
do you live in the tent behind you?
Yes, I do. I live in this tent, and I've lived not only in this tent but another tent now since September last year. So it was a year. It's a year and a month that I've lived outdoors, and that's through the entire winter. I've spent all 4 seasons. So that's kind of a double. There's two reasons behind that, and I won't go too in depth, but I'll just say is the main reason was financial duress and my conditions, and I applied for disability once, got rejected. I have no social services for disability, and I've been unable to work on a consistent basis, except for entertainment, enough to earn a living. And that's why I moved to New Mexico, because it was cheaper. But I also believe, and I've experienced, and I've done as many empirical tests as I can, that when I am off a phone, off computers, unplugged, and when I'm more exposed to nature, it's been proven. They're proving it in Japan, everything, forest bathing. It doesn't cure my illness, but it improves. All your immune factors go up, everything. So I thought that it was responsible when I moved outside for my slight remission I had, but it turns out it was a combination of factors, and it was just part of the ebb and flow and the flare-up of my disease. Living outside helped, so I decided a combination, how can I save what I have left to spend as efficiently as possible on medical care, since I'm on Medicaid, and most of my conditions aren't covered by Medicaid, hence not even hernia surgery. So I live with hernias, and I wear a belt to hold in my hernias, literally my guts, every day. So this was a way that I could live outdoors, take the burden off me financially, and I made an arrangement, and I'm very lucky because really my next step would have been, when you hear in all these cities, or there's people who live by the river and underneath other passes, I was very lucky that I found someone to do an exchange that understood my situation and allows me to care for some of the animals when I can here, to do some organizational tasks, all just random things that I'm good at. Even when I'm very sick, I can do part of them that allow, and it's just a compassionate move by these people to allow me to have a place for my tent, and I'll even have an electricity cord, even access to their internet when I want it. So it's a really privileged, I don't even like to use, the homeless, not because it's stigmatizing, it's just that I'm very fortunate that I'm not yet to the point where I'm completely homeless and have no choices, because the conditions I have, truthfully, living with a CPAP machine alone to sleep and different things, I couldn't do on the streets without access to the appropriate dietary needs, because I cook every single meal that I eat. And so
You don't have friends, family around to support you in that situation?
So I'm going to say this. I've had some really crucial friends along the way throughout this, and either, they're unable because they don't have the means to help. People are generally busy with their lives, and I look at it as it's very easy to get sad or angry about the situation, and sometimes I have been, but my family lives in Oregon. I love them to death. They're good people, and this has nothing to do, but I'll just say that chronic illness is crushing on any families, and the ones that deal with it appropriately, quote unquote, or whatever, it's the exception and not the rule, especially in the U.S. society. And my family and I have not, it's been a point of contention, and but they have been there for me in certain situations, and but they're not in a position to fix this. And so the friends and the people, I'll admit, I think it's a lot of the responsibility is on myself in some degree, because I don't know if it's being male, being in my 40s now, but this started at age 30. We don't have the college age friends that have drifted off in our society now. They go off and they're living their lives. They're married with kids. People have their own causes locally. The vagabond nature of my illness, where I've had to go on the road to treatments, you leave the community you have behind because you're trying to get to the safest place, it dissipates, and then you end up, and I'll be truthful, people don't gravitate towards chronic illness. Facing one's mortality is a rare trait, and there's probably, in my estimation, 2 to 5% of human beings can actually step across and be in that uncomfortable zone and be with people. And not only that, do for them. ask. I always put it this way: when that person says, "Hey, if you need me to help you move, let me know," but you can tell in their voice that you'll never, please don't call me. That's like a veiled offer. Never, 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 because that's the one thing people don't want to help. And then there's that person that goes, "I will be there on Saturday. I don't care. I'm coming. Buy me a beer, do something, but I'm going to be there." And that's the person that I don't want to say I was in life, but I really do think that's what I've been for friends. But somehow I have not found as many of those friends. I have a few, and we, that I'll say that have been there and stepped up for me. And yeah, but it's also what I'll say is I haven't asked. I've asked some, but I haven't asked specifically. And it's part of it's being unable to ask and receive is part of it. So that, I've realized through this, if you don't tell people, there are certain people, like I said, that will understand that you're disabled, you're cognitively disabled, and so you asking, or just your personality, it's too embarrassing for so-and-so to ask, but I'm going to not give them the opportunity to turn this down, and I'm going to offer them some money to get them through. I'm going to offer them a place to stay. I'm going to offer them a ride. I'm going to see if they want to drive them to their IV treatment, or do they need somebody to check on them when they get discharged from the emergency room because they don't have anybody. And I'll say most of my emergency room, all of my emergency room situations besides accidents have happened completely alone, and almost most of the time I'm alone after. And when those are hard events and things, you have some anxious moments after that because it's a new physical reality and you don't know. For example, your heart, my heart always worked well and then it doesn't. Was it just that one night? Did I do something to it to be that? Or is this something that's going to happen and you need to wait a week, 10 days, you feel more comfortable. Okay, I don't know when it's going to happen again, but now I feel safer alone. Just if you know people, I would say, and I know that's not the question, but I always tell people, don't assume people are okay. I think they say that a lot with mental illness for people, but just assume that they're not really and check in on them. And I think that's been my fault for not asking, probably male. I don't know. It's my own form of toxic masculinity, I guess. I don't know. I'm not sure I even know what that totally means. But
what brings you joy?
Simple things. Friends, community, which I don't have a lot of anymore, but I miss that. Nature. And when I'm free from the physical pain, even if it's going to exhaust me, because chronic fatigue syndrome, the nature of it is even if you do something and you feel okay to do it, let's say dance. Dancing used to bring me joy. Miss dancing completely. Often now I'm hurting too much. But if you do choose to do it, you may pay the price, and people can't imagine this. You could spend a week almost in bed as a result of an hour of dancing. Now that's rarely happened to me. It's usually a day or two, but I know people with these same conditions that happens. And so dancing, being physical, affection, intimacy, which are, animals, petting them and playing with animals, and just the really simple things. And I will say travel and adventure are what used to drive me. I still think I'm adventurous, hence the tent, but I'll put it this way, that I could find joy now with a very non-adventurous lifestyle. It could be pretty boring at this point and I'd be okay because I've lived enough adventure. There's never enough, but I feel like the adventure part of my life is okay to be put, sort of the chapters can be closed a little bit.
What is your biggest fear?
My biggest fear has always been death and dying alone. Even before I got sick, I've been one of those people that thought about death I think I discovered the reality of death around 4 or 5 years old. So, and no legacy. So that kind of all goes together. Mm-hmm. I always never understood the term legacy, and that's my biggest pain through this, is that I feel I have a lot to give. I feel there's a lot of artistic ability in me, and through this illness and everything I've learned to give to people, but I've been unable. And that's what people don't understand is it's admittedly part of my thing is a lack of it's attention deficit syndrome. It's part thing that I had before my illness, but it's just as prevalent or more so while I've been sick. And with the cognitive issues, it kind of spins out of control. So even when I have a little energy and stuff, putting together a project and putting together my voice to help people who are going through chronic illness, I haven't been able to do that. And I feel like anything like that, writing a book, having a family and kids, any form of legacy, I think everybody wants that. And my biggest thing is not just the death, it's dying without having, done stuff. And then I sometimes say I have done things. The people who I encountered for 30 years before I got ill, and even while I was ill, there's maybe it's not documented in social media or it's not in the record books of legacy, but you pass on your person to others and through life. But I'd like something more tangible. So yeah, fear of dying without achieving stuff that I've wanted to achieve. So
do you believe in something?
Do I believe in something? Yes, very, very, very much so. And I always say this, and people think it's snarky and whatever, but I say I have the utmost faith, the deepest faith that any as an atheist, that I have more faith than mega churches all combined in me. So that is, it's not arrogance, it's not ego, it's confidence. And that's why I try to get across to people how compromised I am, because I am a confident person. I'm somebody who's driven and resilient, and I have so much faith in myself to do and achieve. And you're looking at somebody who's homeless, who's marginalized, that has no money, that's on the people you hear about from some parts of our society that say they're bringing down the economy, that are doing this. You don't just get there, it happens to you often. And people are like, life doesn't happen to you, you change life. No, there are circumstances out of your control. You can be trying as hard as you want, you can have faith, but I still have faith in myself. I don't, as much faith as I have in myself, I'm pragmatic, and I'm not a fantasy believer that I tell sometimes a story, and I'm not going to tell the whole story, but I'll just say, I've known from a young age, I used to know a boy I went to elementary school with who got leukemia. And this is back in the 1980 probably or something. And he was a good person. His name was Christian, actually. And I saw him going through, chemotherapy, losing his hair, throwing up, and everything. And all the kids were scared of that, I remember. And I remember I was scared to death of it, but I was thinking in my head, how scared he must be. So, he ended up passing away. And I remember that was my first experience with somebody I know dying. And I just said, I think I realized then that as much faith as you have, as good of a person as you are, I don't want to be dark, but your cells can literally just be mutated based on your environment, based on some genetics. And people don't want to believe that, but my kidneys are a problem based on nothing I've done wrong, but because of my genetics and different things. And I may have the most faith, but faith does not cure you. Faith gives you a chance. And that's so that's my faith.
Coming from faith, let's go to truth.
Truth.
What is the truth?
What is the truth?
Or your definition of truth?
My definition of truth, I don't know if it goes together, but I just say it makes me think of integrity. It makes me think of morals and values and the basic things, regardless of if you're in a religion, regardless of what you've been taught. It's how do you treat animals, humans, the people around you, and that defines, I think, one's truth. and what they I think for me, just going through this, and I think I saw it before I was ill. I was lucky enough to travel the world very much as a backpacker and hitchhiking and in a very rough sense, and sometimes in a less rough sense. I got some fortuitous moments, but it allowed me to witness even then that that's the core truth of existence, and it's stuff that it doesn't even have to go. I tell people I've been to where the Dalai Lama was at one point, and in Dharamsala, India, or if you've studied somewhere, you can do that. But it's in this village in Corrales. There's been people who have been awful to me. It's a minority here, but a minority of the community, I should say, because most people are good. But they were acting out of the bad side of like distrust, scared of the unknown because of a person living in a tent. But the general truth, and the best were the people who take a person at face value. They meet you, they use their instincts, they decide, and they use all their senses to find out if a person is, this person feels like a good, trustworthy person or whatever. And what I say that because, and this is related to truth, is like there's people who, no matter how they try to portray themselves, their exterior, what they're at now, maybe they don't have clothes left that present themselves well. We're trained, they make judgments about the people, and then your truth is defined for you, and it's based on assumptions. And then we get people who, it can be dangerous for people when they make assumptions. So anyway, that's sort of the answer to truth in a roundabout fashion, maybe.
What is your truth?
What is my truth? Oh no, you're going deeper into truth. I mean, my truth is, what is my truth?
It's maybe your legacy.
Yeah, I guess, I don't know if this answers it, but I would say, I always tell people that we need more egoless giving and everything done. We need people who give with ego, because it's better than nothing. So if somebody's going to do something and they need acknowledgement and a pat on the back, at least they're doing it. It's like when we volunteer at the food shelter and we go and we tell everyone, you still volunteered. You could have done it without it. And there's people who do give without ego, and they don't have to have any acknowledgement. And I think for me, my truth is, that is how I've tried to live my whole life. And it doesn't mean I haven't done the pat on the back or kind of talked about it, even in this sense, talking about it. But that is something I've tried to as best to do with just the feeling. And there's still ego, because it feels good if I don't tell anybody about it, but I know that I was kind to the person at the checkout line at the grocery, or even if it's being kind when I'm going through the medical rigmarole, where most of even the nurses and the people who work the front desk, they can be very rude and very non-empathetic. But giving them love and actually flipping the script on them and showing them, even in my state, that I'm going to be as kind as possible. That's my truth. I think I've always tried to. There's a quote that I'll murder, but it's something like, always give always give. Oh man, I'm gonna forget. It's essentially always receive with, never forget what you've received, and give without any expectation of return or something. And that is completely destroying that quote. But there's the basis of it is try to just do stuff and forget about it. Don't expect anything. And if it comes back to you, it comes back to you. And when people give to you, though, receive it and acknowledge it, and really never forget that. So that's something that, as much as I can't remember the full quote, it's what I try to live as my truth. And I'm not always successful about it, with it, for sure. You know, I think you can want something and be bad and not be bad at it, but you can always be improving at it. And for sure, I am learning all the time. And I hope I have more opportunity to learn. That's the biggest thing.
I'd like to give you an opportunity to learn. How about we finish with you expressing to us what you really need right now?
Yeah, this is a lesson in asking and stuff. And what I really, well, I've thought about this in the sense, you know, of tangible things, but what I need the most, and I'll speak for myself, but I think it's really applicable to almost anyone going through, especially illness struggle, is support in not second guessing and not debunking of illness, and not, you know, always trying to undermine a lot of people who are going through, especially stigmatized and invisible disability. I need support. I need people who don't just chime in once. They come in, they let you know that you're still alive, a human being, and acknowledge you, because I pass months at a time, when you add up the time over the years, but where you're alone suffering with illness, and I tell people there's no rescue unit. I don't think there's a rescue unit in any country, but there's more other countries that have better social care, but there's definitely no rescue unit in the United States. And if you're unable to rescue yourself or have people that help you, you're not long for this world, most likely, unless you're lucky. So for me, it's feeling of love, and that's not romantic love. It would be bonus. I'm talking about love from people and family, and feeling like just because you have an illness, you still have value, and you're not a burden. And I think that's the rest, tangible things would come from that. So when people ask you need, you're like, yeah, I don't have money for medical treatment. I need medical treatment. I need to go to a specialty clinic that handles these things. But I think that comes from just the stuff I mentioned in support. So of course that'd be easy to say, is somebody needs, you know, money so they can get treatment. But it's more about, I think the actual human support gives more value and is more meaningful than actually financial support.
Would you like to add anything before we finish?
No, I think I talked too much. So, I mean, I could, but no, I don't know. I mean, I hope, I don't think I answered each question very directly, and I might have been way off base with them, but I did my best. So.
No, thank you very much.
Sure.
That's my truth.
Okay. Yeah. More hugs. That's what we need.
Yeah.
For sure.